Hi YouTubers, it's Micah Pilcher again. Today we're going to be talking about the geologic column, and I'm going to make a brief reference to the radiometric dating system. Turns out, sadly, most people who hold to an old Earth conviction, whether they be creationists or whether they be evolutionists, do so under the impression that science has proven that the Earth is old based on these two ideas, that the geologic column represents scientifically the ages that have gone by, the Jurassic, Triassic, so on and so forth, and that the radiometric dating system confirms this. Unfortunately, this is not the case. This idea of the geologic column was invented, and I use that word intentionally, by one named Charles Lyell from the 19th century, a man who was profoundly influential on Charles Darwin, so don't tell me these ideas aren't dangerous. I'm going to show you an article from Answers in Genesis in the link below that documents the relationship between those two men. Charles Lyell was the one who said that he intended to, quote, free the science from Moses, from, of course, the works of Genesis. Alright, the quote I'm about to read you perfectly sums up this man's viewpoint, his worldview regarding what the geologic column is supposed to represent. It comes from a secular textbook called Earth Science. And it says, if there were a column of sediments deposited continuously since the formation of the Earth, the entire history of the planet could be reconstructed. But the quote continues, unfortunately, no such column exists. Fact is, the geologic column has been correctly called a hoax. It has no empirical science behind it. And by the way, if, according to other sources, if the geologic column did actually exist with all the layers in place, intact, in order, the way they're supposed to be, it would be over 100 miles thick. That's thicker than the Grand Canyon, folks. You wouldn't be able to observe it all in one place. There are some old earthers who will claim that there are at least 26 places where we see them in order. That's not actually the case. What they observe are rock layers that have what are known as index fossils in there that supposedly correlate with the geologic column, because they date the rocks by the fossils and then the fossils by the rocks. It's circular reasoning. And here's another one that I really like that comes from Dr. John Woodmarop. 80 to 85% of Earth's land surface does not even have 3 geologic periods appearing in correct consecutive order. It becomes an overall exercise of gargantuan special pleading and imagination for the evolutionary uniformitarian paradigm to maintain that there was ever such geologic periods. Then there's this issue of radiometric dating. Now the science is very complicated with that one, so I'm going to actually link a video to this one from an excellent series called Nuff Said that explains it in better detail and much more succinctly than I am capable of doing. The short answer on that one being that the radiometric scheme, while it's not useless, carries a lot of fundamental assumptions that make it useless as a means by which you date something that is thousands of years old. Certainly, if it were millions or billions of years old, you would never be able to use radiometric dating to prove it. And any geologic scientist who is in the know will tell you they don't use those dating methods to date the Earth. It's just not done. And if you need one single proof to completely obliterate the idea that the geologic column and that the layers of rock represents different ages, all you need to do is look at polystratofossils. These are the ideas, and is observed all over the world en masse, is that you'll have multiple layers of rock and trees, especially trees, running through multiple layers of rock. Now, there's absolutely no logical way to assume that a tree, even if it's petrified, even if it's in the state of stone, is going to stand there uninterrupted for millions of years while the dirt builds up around it. It's not possible, it's not observable, it's not science, and it's nonsense. One other thought I'm going to leave you with, this was just for your Christian walk and for mine as well, I have to ask myself this every day. Since Jesus Christ said, "By this shall men know that you are my disciples, that you have love one for another," if that's your qualifier, ask yourself, if you were in court to be on trial for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you? Alright, you have a good day and God bless.